Hey guys, tonight we journey back to ancient China, a place where the simplest of materials revolutionized the world. Imagine walking through the dense bamboo forests, surrounded by the fragrance of freshly pressed leaves and the whisper of silk as it flows from hand to hand. It's a world where writing, art, and even the very way knowledge was passed from generation to generation had yet to be truly invented. No paper yet. No way to preserve the fleeting ideas that swirl in the air. It's hard to imagine. Right. Especially in a world where everything we write, everything we read, hinges on a single invention. A discovery so simple, and yet so monumental that it changed the course of human history. You probably won't survive this journey without being at least a little amazed at how something so mundane today, paper, had its roots in such a humble setting. But don't worry, I'm here to guide you through it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and the time where you are. Let's see where in the world we're connecting tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. We're standing at the very beginning, long before Kai Lun made history with his famous invention of paper. Before the emperors and scholars could press their thoughts onto something as simple as a scroll. The earliest attempts at creating surfaces to write on in ancient China were far from the delicate sheets of paper we know today. They were rudimentary at best. Ancient Chinese scribes turned to bamboo, silk, and even animal skins as surfaces to record their ideas. In fact, bamboo, for much of early Chinese history, was the material of choice for writing. Now, let's picture this. The dense, sturdy bamboo forests surrounding villages. It wasn't just used for paper-like material. It was woven into baskets, buildings, and bridges. But when it came to writing, bamboo was split into thin strips and then flattened to create writing surfaces. The problem: bamboo was heavy and cumbersome, not to mention expensive. It was hard to carry around, and once it was written on, it couldn't be easily rolled up or folded. Silk came next, a luxury that was more pliable but equally costly. Not a practical option for everyone, you know. And yet, this silk, smooth and soft, allowed scribes to record their knowledge, poetry, and even governmental decrees. But still, the material was expensive and difficult to mass produce. Historians still argue whether bamboo or silk was the superior material in those early days. But one thing's clear: neither was sustainable for mass communication. Ideas were confined to the wealthy and powerful, with the common people having little to no access to writing tools. Writing was a rarefied skill, something reserved for the elite. But what would happen if someone found a way to make writing materials accessible to everyone? Could something as humble as paper alter the course of civilization? We're getting closer to the moment when it all changes. But first, let's consider the time frame we're dealing with. The Han Dynasty, one of the most prosperous periods in ancient China, was a time of experimentation and innovation. This period gave birth to ideas that would resonate far beyond China's borders. Ideas that would go on to shape the future. Imagine that moment. It's the 2nd century BCE. The air is heavy with the promise of something new, and a figure rises to change the world forever. We're almost there. But we'll have to travel through history's twists and turns to get to the heart of the paper-making revolution. The winds of change in ancient China were not swift, but they were steady. Imagine the hum of a marketplace during the Han Dynasty, the bustle of people trading goods, and the whispers of a new, mysterious material, a material that was being worked on behind closed doors, away from the prying eyes of ordinary citizens. This material would become the very foundation of written history. But before it could enter the mainstream, China needed someone to unlock its potential. That person was about to step into history, and when he did, he would forever alter the way the world communicated. This person, Cai Lun, isn't just a name in the books. He's the man often credited with the invention of paper. Historians still argue whether he was the sole inventor or if he just refined the techniques that had been brewing in the shadows for decades. Regardless, it was during his time in the Eastern Han Dynasty around the year 105 CE that the world as we know it first glimpsed the creation of paper. He was an imperial court official, known more for his administrative skills than for any bold claims to inventiveness. But it was in this very setting that paper, as we would come to know it, was born. Before we dive deeper into the specifics of what Cai Lun did, let's pause for a moment and think about the era he was living in. The Han Dynasty was flourishing. It was a period of technological and cultural prosperity. Paper had already existed in some form. But what Cai Lun achieved was a revolution. He combined various materials, wood fibers, hemp, rags, and even old fishing nets, to create a thin, flexible material that could be written on and then stored easily. It was lightweight, portable, and, crucially, far more affordable than bamboo or silk. So, what did this mean for the people of China? Imagine the excitement of discovering a material that could be used to record and share knowledge more easily than ever before. The idea of mass communication became more possible. Records could be kept by individuals, not just scribes and emperors. In a time when words carried immense power, paper gave everyone a new tool to communicate. The potential for education, for storytelling, and for connecting people across the empire was suddenly within reach. But here's the kicker. Cai Lun's creation wasn't a breakthrough everyone immediately recognized. It took time. And not just a little time. It was slow at first, and only those in the elite circles of the court or those with access to government resources had the privilege of using paper regularly. For the majority, the transition from bamboo and silk to this new medium wasn't overnight. However, what Cai Lun set in motion would eventually become the beating heart of written history. And as paper spread, it began to change everything. Historians still debate how quickly and in what ways Cai Lun's paper reached the common people. Some suggest that its adoption was slow due to resistance from established traditions, while others believe that once the advantages of paper became apparent, it spread like wildfire. Either way, paper was no longer just a luxury for the rich. The common people were starting to get their hands on it, too. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Paper was not just an accident of discovery. It was a careful, thoughtful blending of materials that had been used before, but never in such a way. Ancient Chinese papermakers had experimented with fibers like bamboo, hemp, and even the bark of trees. Each of these materials had their own unique properties. Some were stiff and sturdy. Others were more flexible. What Cai Lun did was to find the right combination of fibers that gave paper both strength and flexibility, while being light enough to handle and easy to store. He didn't just happen upon it. He intentionally created a material that could change the way knowledge was shared and recorded. But let's not forget, there were challenges. The making of paper was a delicate craft. Each sheet had to be carefully formed, dried, and pressed. In fact, It was so intricate that it remained a specialized skill for quite some time. Imagine the papermakers working by the light of lanterns, pressing wet fibers between bamboo mats, smoothing out each piece with the precision of an artisan. It was a labor of love, one that would eventually be shared by generations of workers. But in the beginning, it was an intimate process. Historians still argue over whether Cai Lun's invention was entirely unique, or whether there were other individuals or regions working on similar materials around the same time. Some point to the possibility that other papermakers in neighboring regions were experimenting with paper-like materials independently. And while Cai Lun's contribution was significant, it's likely that his success was built on a series of incremental steps taken by many before him. In the next part of our story, we'll see how this new material began to catch the attention of the larger Chinese population. It wasn't just about writing down stories or records anymore. It was about creating a new medium for communication. Imagine the moment when the first few sheets of paper were printed with official decrees, or perhaps when poetry was scrawled on these new, flexible surfaces. Paper was the perfect canvas for human expression. It could be rolled up, folded, and carried around easily. It could be shared between people in ways that bamboo and silk simply could not match. In this new world, paper became more than just a material. It became a tool that would help shape the very culture and history of China. And as we move forward, we'll see how its influence spread beyond China's borders, forever altering the course of civilization. The story of paper doesn't end in China's imperial court. It's just the beginning. Picture, if you will, the winds gently rustling through a city gate in ancient China, as whispers of Cai Lun's invention begin to carry through the streets, passing from merchant to scholar, and even to humble peasants. The once elite luxury of writing materials is suddenly accessible to more people, and with it, the way knowledge is recorded begins to shift dramatically. This wasn't just a new writing tool. It was a cultural shift that allowed for communication to extend far beyond the walls of the royal court. The use of paper wasn't restricted to the high and mighty anymore. It started to pervade the very fabric of Chinese society. Historians agree that the spread of paper across China didn't happen overnight. Like any new technology, it took time to gain momentum. Early adoption was largely restricted to the imperial court, where paper was used for official documents, and to the scribes who could afford it. But the demand for paper grew steadily as people began to see the practical advantages over traditional materials like bamboo and silk. Not only was it cheaper, but it was also lighter and more flexible, making it easier to store, transport, and distribute. In time, paper started to seep into the fabric of everyday life. Governmental bureaucrats began using it for tax records. Military officials used it for strategic documents. And artists began experimenting with the new material to create their brushstrokes and calligraphy. Imagine walking through a market square where scrolls are being sold, once crafted from the stiff, cumbersome bamboo, but now available as soft, portable sheets of paper. For the first time, people in China were able to use writing materials that were both practical and widespread, creating an environment ripe for the exchange of ideas. But it wasn't just the intellectuals and officials who benefited from paper. Paper became a medium for the arts. Chinese artists, who had long used silk and bamboo for their works, quickly adopted paper for calligraphy and painting. The flexibility of paper allowed for more fluid and intricate designs than ever before. Leading to an explosion of creativity, artists could experiment with different strokes and textures, and poets could write at length without worrying about the limitations of bamboo's stiffness. Paper changed the very fabric of artistic expression in China, sparking a renaissance in the visual and literary arts. And this is where things get particularly interesting: the spread of paper beyond China's borders. Historians still debate when and how exactly the art of papermaking spread beyond China's walls. Some suggest that the technique was carried westward through the Silk Road, where it encountered the cultures of Central Asia and the Middle East. Others believe it was the result of direct contact between China and its neighboring regions, especially after the rise of the Tang dynasty, which maintained diplomatic relations with places like the Persian Empire. Regardless of the route, one thing is certain: the spread of papermaking had profound effects on civilizations far beyond China. By the time we reached the 8th century, paper had made its way across the vast expanse of the Silk Road to places like the Islamic Caliphate. The art of papermaking was taken up by scholars and merchants, who saw its potential for trade and record-keeping. The Islamic world, which already had a rich tradition of scholarship, found paper to be an ideal medium for preserving scientific, philosophical, and literary works. The famous House of Wisdom in Baghdad, for example, became a hub for the translation of Greek texts into Arabic, and it was all done on paper. Interestingly, though, historians still argue over the speed at which papermaking spread across the Middle East. Some believe it was a rapid process, with paper factories springing up quickly in places like Samarkand and Baghdad. Others argue that it took a bit longer for paper to catch on in the Middle East, where traditional materials like parchment were still heavily in use. Regardless, by the time it reached the Mediterranean, paper was already becoming an essential tool for everything from religious texts to business contracts. The transformation that paper brought to the Middle East and later to Europe cannot be overstated. The spread of paper helped to accelerate the development of universities, printing presses, and even libraries. It was no longer just the wealthy elite or the powerful who could record their thoughts and ideas. It was available to anyone who could afford the paper, which meant that the distribution of knowledge was democratized in a way that had never been seen before. Now, while the story of paper's journey across Asia and into the Middle East is fascinating, there's still more to uncover. The cultural significance of paper was far-reaching, touching everything from governmental administration to spiritual rituals. In China and Nine, for example, paper wasn't just used for writing, it had symbolic meaning. For the Chinese, paper was considered a vehicle for the soul. During funerary rites, it was common to burn paper representations of material goods, things like paper money, paper houses, and even paper servants, to ensure the deceased would have these comforts in the afterlife. This belief in the power of paper to carry wishes and messages to the beyond makes paper much more than just a tool. It's a conduit for spiritual connection. It's a fascinating little tidbit that speaks to the broader cultural importance of paper in ancient China. But it also hints at something larger: the way a seemingly simple invention like paper can shape not just practical aspects of life, but also the metaphysical and spiritual realms of a society. We're now moving into a world where paper has truly taken hold. From the humble scribes of China to the bustling trade cities of the Middle East and beyond. And in the next part of our journey, we'll delve deeper into the transformations paper brought to the world of literature, education, and art. Imagine you're standing in a bustling marketplace in Chang'an, the capital of the Tang dynasty, circa the 8th century. It's a hot summer day, and the air is filled with the smells of incense, spices, and fresh tea. Merchants from far-flung regions are selling their wares, and among the crowd, you notice scrolls and documents being exchanged. But something has changed. The once bulky scrolls made of silk or bamboo are now being replaced by something lighter and more flexible. Paper. It's everywhere. Traders use it to record their transactions. Scholars jot down new ideas with the brush and ink. Even poets compose their works on paper, transforming the cultural landscape. This is the world paper has helped create. It's no longer a luxury. It's no longer confined to the elite or the bureaucrats. It's everywhere now. And yet, at this moment in history, something even bigger is happening. The spread of paper in China isn't just about convenience. It's the beginning of a revolution in the written word. The written word itself is about to shift from being something rare and difficult to produce to something that is far more accessible, affordable, and portable than ever before. The real turning point here is the gradual spread of paper-making across not only China, but also the broader world. As paper reached other parts of Asia, it began to serve a different purpose, one that we would eventually see spread to Europe and beyond: printing. The most immediate effects of this shift were felt in China's religious and educational spheres. Buddhist monasteries, for example, began to print sacred texts on paper, which allowed for the mass production of religious books. This was an extraordinary development. Imagine being able to reproduce sacred texts not by painstakingly copying them by hand, but by printing them on paper in mass quantities. This meant that religious teachings could be spread far and wide, without the limits of scribes copying word for word. Historians still debate the true origins of printing. But one thing is clear. It was in China that the first steps were taken toward mass-produced printed works. Some suggest that woodblock printing was the precursor to movable type printing. But the very idea of producing multiple copies of the same document in a short period of time had profound implications for the way knowledge was shared. Paper made this all possible. Think about it. Before paper, printing as we know it today would have been impossible. Without paper, the printing press would have been a dream with no material to turn it into reality. The impact on literature was equally profound. For the first time, a wide variety of written works, historical records, poetry, philosophical treatises, could be shared beyond the educated elite. The idea of mass-producing literature transformed the way people thought about education, literacy, and even communication. No longer were books the exclusive property of the wealthy. They became more widely available, and in this new world, knowledge was no longer confined to a small group of scholars. It could be passed along to anyone who could read. As paper spread across Asia and into the Middle East, it began to revolutionize education. Universities, such as those in Baghdad and Cairo, began to use paper extensively for teaching materials. It wasn't just about writing. It was about creating entire libraries of knowledge that could be accessed by scholars from around the world. The Islamic Golden Age, which saw an explosion of scientific, mathematical, and philosophical advancements, owed a great deal to paper's ability to disseminate knowledge. Without paper, the rapid exchange of ideas between cultures, so vital to the development of early science, would have been much slower, perhaps even impossible. But let's not forget about the arts. As we've seen, paper wasn't just a medium for text. It was a new canvas for artists, too. With paper, artists could experiment with new styles and techniques. This was especially true for Chinese ink painting, where the flexibility of paper allowed for intricate brushstrokes that would have been impossible on bamboo or silk. The use of paper didn't just democratize written knowledge, it also democratized the creation of art. Artists didn't need the expensive silk to craft their masterpieces. They could use paper, making their art more accessible to the public. Now, we have to take a moment to address something historians still argue over. Was it Kai Lun's original paper-making technique that set the world on this trajectory? Or was it the gradual accumulation of knowledge and experimentation that led to the widespread use of paper? Some historians believe that Kai Lun's method, combining bamboo, hemp, and rags, was the crucial breakthrough. Others argue that the spread of paper-making was more of an organic process, with many different regions in China and beyond experimenting with their own materials and methods. In either case, by the time we reach the 9th and 10th centuries, paper is no longer just an invention of the Chinese. It's a material that is fundamentally reshaping the world. The spread of paper didn't just change the written world, it also changed the way people thought about information and its preservation. Before paper, the fragility and cost of writing materials meant that knowledge could easily be lost, erased, or destroyed. Think about it. Without paper, the burning of libraries or the loss of documents could mean the complete loss of knowledge. But now, with paper, information could be stored more easily and in greater quantity. The creation of paper made it possible to preserve vast amounts of information for future generations. But it wasn't just about preservation. It was also about access. Paper was no longer the domain of the elite. It was available to anyone who could afford it. And as the centuries passed, it would become even more accessible. But the road ahead wasn't without its challenges. The spread of paper faced obstacles in every corner of the world. Whether it was due to the high cost of materials, political resistance, or simply the sheer difficulty of mass production. Next, we'll dive into how paper found its way into Europe, where it would eventually trigger the rise of printing presses and the beginning of the modern era. Picture a vibrant marketplace in the heart of the Islamic Caliphate, where merchants are trading everything from spices to silks. Among them are scholars, their robes embroidered with intricate designs, their minds buzzing with new ideas and discoveries. And here, as the wind sweeps through the Grand Bazaar, a new material is beginning to make its presence felt. Paper. It's a simple word, yet it's a symbol of an incredible transformation. We've seen how paper spread through China, revolutionizing both communication and art. But now, we're moving westward, into the Middle East, where the seeds of paper would soon bear fruit in ways that would change the entire course of human history. The 8th century marks a pivotal moment in the journey of paper. After its initial introduction to the Islamic world, paper begins to permeate the Middle East, and it quickly finds its home in the bustling intellectual centers of cities like Baghdad, Samarkand, and Cairo. These cities, already vibrant with trade and scholarship, were the perfect breeding grounds for new ideas. And paper was a catalyst for those ideas to take root. Historians still debate exactly when and how paper made its way to the Islamic world. But one theory suggests that it arrived via the Silk Road, carried by merchants and travelers who had already encountered it in China. The other theory points to the direct transfer of paper-making techniques through military campaigns, particularly after the defeat of the Tang dynasty by the Abbasid Caliphate in the mid-8th century. Regardless of how it arrived, once paper settled in the Islamic world, it found fertile ground. Baghdad, the jewel of the Abbasid Caliphate, became a hub of intellectual activity during the Islamic Golden Age. Scholars, poets, and philosophers flocked to its famed House of Wisdom, where they could access not only a wealth of ancient Greek, Persian, and Indian knowledge, but also the new ideas coming out of China and the surrounding regions. Paper revolutionized the process of copying, storing, and sharing this knowledge. Before paper, the task of reproducing texts was arduous and slow. Manuscripts were copied by hand, often by scribes working painstakingly over months or even years. With paper, texts could be produced more quickly and cheaply, making it possible to create multiple copies of a single work and distribute them to scholars and students alike. Imagine, for a moment, the explosion of knowledge that took place during this period. The Islamic world was home to some of the brightest minds of the time, and paper allowed them to communicate across vast distances. In the House of Wisdom, works of philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine were copied, translated, and shared in ways that had never been possible before. Thanks to paper, ideas that once languished in the libraries of Greece, Rome, and India found new life in the hands of Islamic scholars. The printing of texts became commonplace, and scholars could now more easily build on one another's ideas, laying the groundwork for centuries of intellectual development. Historians still argue about the precise role that paper played in the advancement of Islamic scholarship. Some point to the development of Islamic calligraphy, which flourished thanks to paper's flexibility, as a critical part of the era's intellectual explosion. Others emphasize the role of paper in facilitating the preservation and dissemination of scientific and medical knowledge. What is clear, however, is that paper played an indispensable role in the cultural and intellectual renaissance of the Islamic Golden Age. But it wasn't just in the intellectual world that paper had an impact. In the bustling marketplaces of cities like Baghdad, Samarkand, and Cairo, paper became a commodity in its own right. Merchants used it to record transactions, write contracts, and keep track of goods, making the exchange of goods and services more efficient. Paper allowed for more accurate record-keeping, which in turn enabled greater economic organization. The impact on trade and commerce was profound, as it made financial transactions quicker and more reliable. For the first time, merchants could easily track debts, inventory, and agreements across long distances, helping to fuel the growth of a global economy. As paper continued to spread throughout the Islamic world, it also made its way into Europe, where it would eventually take root and spark a revolution of its own. But before we move forward to Europe, let's pause for a moment and consider what paper had achieved in the Middle East. It had become a vehicle for intellectual exchange, a tool for economic advancement, and a medium for artistic expression. From the scholars of Baghdad to the merchants of Cairo, paper had woven itself into the very fabric of life in the Islamic world. Historians still debate whether paper's impact on the Islamic world was truly revolutionary or whether it was simply a natural progression in the region's already thriving intellectual culture. Some argue that paper accelerated the flow of knowledge and ideas, allowing for innovations in fields such as mathematics and medicine. Others believe that the Islamic world was already on a path of intellectual growth, and paper merely facilitated the process. Regardless of which side you fall on, it's undeniable that paper played a pivotal role in the rise of the Islamic Golden Age and the flourishing of civilization. In the next section, we'll see how this transformative material finally made its way to Europe, where it would play a key role in the development of printing and the dissemination of knowledge across the Western world. As the winds of intellectual and cultural change blew through the Islamic world, carrying paper to the farthest reaches of Asia and the Middle East, It was only a matter of time before this humble material would make its way westward to Europe. Imagine the scene. Medieval Europe, still largely reliant on parchment and vellum, slow to embrace the material innovations of the East. For centuries, the written word had been confined to elite circles, with monks painstakingly copying religious texts by hand, and scholars scribbling their treatises in the margins of expensive manuscripts. But now, a new era is on the horizon, one that promises to make the written word more accessible and transformative than ever before. The stage is set for the arrival of paper in Europe, and with it, the beginning of a revolution in communication, education, and the dissemination of knowledge. The journey of paper to Europe wasn't as instantaneous as you might think. It didn't come barreling through the gates of the continent overnight, nor did it arrive fully formed, ready to reshape society. In fact, paper's arrival in Europe was a slow and deliberate process, one that took several centuries to truly take hold. Some historians believe that the first recorded use of paper in Europe came in the 11th century, when it began to trickle into Spain, brought back by Islamic traders and scholars. The Spanish city of Córdoba, then under Muslim rule, became an early center for paper production in Europe, as the Islamic world had long since mastered the art of papermaking. From there, paper began to spread slowly across the Mediterranean, finding its way to places like Italy and France. At first, paper's impact in Europe was limited. Parchment and vellum were still the primary writing materials, and paper was largely used for things like receipts, legal documents, and merchant accounts. But over time, something shifted. Paper began to take root in European society, particularly in the bustling trade cities of Italy, which were becoming cultural and commercial hubs of the medieval world. In places like Venice and Florence, paper mills began to spring up, making the material more widely available and affordable. As paper mills multiplied, the cost of paper began to drop, making it more accessible to a wider range of people, from scholars to commoners. Historians still argue over the exact moment when paper truly began to gain traction in Europe. Some point to the 13th century, when European universities began to adopt paper for the production of books. Noting that universities like those in Bologna and Paris were among the first to recognize the potential of paper as an educational tool. Others argue that it wasn't until the rise of printing in the 15th century, with the advent of the Gutenberg press, that paper truly changed the game. But regardless of the timeline, one thing is clear. Once paper began to take root in Europe, it rapidly transformed the landscape of knowledge. The most profound change came with the invention of the printing press by Johannes Gutenberg in the mid-15th century. Gutenberg's press, powered by movable type, would not have been possible without the advent of paper. Paper was the medium that allowed books to be produced in mass quantities, making literature and knowledge more widely accessible than ever before. Before the press, books were painstakingly copied by hand, often by monks in monasteries, a process that was slow, expensive, and limited to the elite. But with the printing press and paper, suddenly books were not just for the wealthy or the clergy. They could be printed, distributed, and read by people from all walks of life. This was the moment when the democratization of knowledge truly began. It's fascinating to think about the ripple effect that paper and the printing press had on European society. Paper allowed for the mass production of books, newspapers, and pamphlets. Suddenly, ideas could be spread rapidly across the continent, bypassing the slow and laborious process of hand copying. This had enormous implications for everything from religion to politics to science. For instance, the Protestant Reformation, which began with Martin Luther's 95 Theses in 1517, was able to spread so quickly in part because of the printed word. Pamphlets and treatises could be printed and distributed far and wide, challenging the authority of the Catholic Church and sparking a religious revolution that would reshape Europe. The Renaissance, too, owes a great deal to the spread of paper. With the availability of books and written works, new ideas in art, science, and literature were able to flourish. The works of the great thinkers and artists of the time, like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Galileo, were disseminated far more quickly and widely than they would have been in a world without paper. The Renaissance was, in many ways, a direct result of paper's ability to facilitate the rapid spread of ideas, laying the foundation for the modern world. Historians still debate whether the spread of paper in Europe could have happened without the printing press, or if it was the press that truly catalyzed the widespread use of paper. Some argue that paper would have eventually found its place in European society, even without Gutenberg's invention. Others believe that the press was the key factor in transforming paper from a commodity into the lifeblood of European culture and intellectual life. Either way, what is undeniable is that paper's arrival in Europe, followed by the rise of printing, marked the dawn of a new era in human communication and knowledge sharing. As we move forward, let's take a step back and consider what we've learned so far. Paper, once a humble invention in ancient China, spread across the world, reshaping societies, economies, and cultures. In Europe, it helped spark the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Age of Enlightenment. It laid the groundwork for the rapid dissemination of knowledge, and in doing so, helped create the modern world we live in today. But this is only the beginning of the story. As we continue, we'll explore how paper has continued to evolve, from its humble beginnings to the digital age. As we leave behind the medieval cities of Europe, bustling with the sound of presses churning out page after page of printed material, let's take a moment to reflect on how far paper has come. What began as a Chinese secret, quietly crafted from rags, bamboo, and hemp, has now spread across the globe, weaving its way into the very fabric of human society. It's no longer just a tool for writing. It's a catalyst for knowledge, a silent partner in every revolution, both intellectual and artistic, that has shaped our world. But paper's journey didn't stop with Gutenberg. It continued to evolve, becoming an indispensable part of daily life, commerce, and communication in ways that would seem unimaginable in those early days when it was first crafted from the fibers of nature. The 16th and 17th centuries in Europe were a time of immense cultural upheaval. The Protestant Reformation and the rise of scientific inquiry reshaped religion and politics, while the Renaissance laid the groundwork for the modern world. But all of this was made possible, in part, by the humble sheet of paper. During this time, printing became the dominant way to spread ideas, from religious tracts to scientific discoveries, and paper played a crucial role in this process. But the story of paper doesn't end in the 16th century. Paper continued to evolve as the demand for it grew. As trade expanded and economies became more complex, the need for paper to record transactions, treaties, and legal documents became even more critical. The expansion of the paper industry itself marked a new era, an era where the material once reserved for the elites now found itself in the hands of nearly everyone. The 18th and 19th centuries saw paper's transformation into a commercial commodity. Paper mills sprang up across Europe and the Americas, using wood pulp as their primary raw material. This shift from rag paper to wood pulp paper was a game changer. It meant that paper could be produced more quickly and cheaply, making it even more accessible to the masses. The industrialization of paper production allowed for a new era of printed works, from newspapers to novels to advertisements. No longer confined to scholars and aristocrats, the printed word was now available to the general public, fueling literacy rates and creating an informed citizenry. Historians still debate the impact of the Industrial Revolution on the paper industry. Some argue that the mass production of paper in the 19th century helped democratize knowledge, while others point out that it contributed to the rise of consumer culture. With printed materials being used to sell everything from soap to political ideologies. Regardless of which side of the debate you fall on, one thing is certain. Paper was no longer just a passive medium for recording information. It had become a driving force in shaping society. As the paper industry continued to grow, it began to change the way people interacted with the world. Think about the first time you picked up a newspaper. Before the age of mass printing, newspapers were a luxury few could afford, their contents dictated by a small elite. But with the advent of cheap paper and printing technology, newspapers became a staple of daily life. They became a platform for political discourse, for the spread of news and ideas, and even for the formation of public opinion. No longer could political leaders control the flow of information. Now, the people had a voice, and that voice was printed on paper. In the 20th century, paper's role in the world only expanded. With the rise of mass communication, radio, television, and, eventually, the internet, paper had a momentary rival in the digital age. But even as the world moved toward the digital frontier, paper held on to its place in daily life. Books, newspapers, and magazines continued to be cherished for their tactile quality, their weight, and their ability to transport us into new worlds of knowledge and imagination. Historians still debate whether the rise of digital media will mark the end of paper's dominance in the modern world. Some suggest that the convenience of digital devices and the decline in print circulation signals the slow demise of paper. Others argue that paper will continue to endure, especially in areas like education, publishing, and personal expression. Paper has proven itself to be more than just a medium. It's a symbol of human creativity, knowledge, and connection. Now, let's take a step back. While we've covered the broad strokes of paper's history, we've only scratched the surface of its cultural significance. In ancient China, paper was more than just a writing material. It was an integral part of daily life, used in everything from religious rituals to the construction of buildings. In the Islamic world, paper became a vehicle for intellectual exchange, facilitating the rapid spread of knowledge during the Islamic Golden Age. And in Europe, paper sparked revolutions, not just in communication, but in science, religion, and politics. It's remarkable to think about how something as seemingly simple as a sheet of paper could have such a profound impact on human history. From ancient scrolls to modern books, from handwritten letters to printed newspapers, paper has been there, silently recording the stories of our lives. And in a way, it still is. Even in the digital age, paper has not been completely replaced. Its presence continues to shape the way we interact with information, even as we navigate a world dominated by screens. In the next section, we'll reflect on how paper has influenced not just the intellectual and commercial world, but also the way we express ourselves artistically. Paper has played a key role in shaping not only the written word, but also the visual arts. Its texture, flexibility, and ability to hold ink have made it a canvas for some of the greatest works of art in history. As we continue our journey through paper's fascinating history, we must now turn our attention to the artistic side of things. Paper, for all its practical applications in communication, administration, and education, has also played a pivotal role in the world of visual art. In fact, paper isn't just a medium for writing or printing. It's a canvas that has given rise to some of the most beautiful and intricate works of art ever created. Imagine walking through an art gallery, where delicate ink strokes and vibrant watercolor hues adorn paper, each piece telling a story of human creativity and expression. From ancient calligraphy to modern illustrations, paper has been an essential part of the artistic process, helping to shape the way artists bring their visions to life. In ancient China, long before it became the widespread material for books, paper was being used in creative and spiritual ways. Calligraphy, the art of writing with a brush, became a revered form of expression. It wasn't just about writing words. It was about capturing the essence of the characters in a fluid, almost meditative dance of ink on paper. The strokes were carefully planned, but they also had a sense of spontaneity, a reflection of the artist's spirit. Calligraphy was not merely an art form for the Chinese elite. It became a symbol of intellectual and artistic refinement. And as paper spread throughout China and the rest of the world, it carried this tradition of calligraphy with it. The importance of paper in Chinese calligraphy cannot be overstated. The quality of the paper itself had a significant impact on the final result. Artists carefully selected different types of paper, sometimes even handcrafted, depending on the type of ink and brush they planned to use. The surface of the paper needed to allow the ink to flow freely, while still absorbing it enough to create beautiful, crisp lines. This balance between absorption and smoothness was crucial, and the versatility of paper made it the perfect medium for such detailed and intricate work. While Chinese calligraphy flourished, paper also became a favored medium for other forms of artistic expression, particularly in Japan. The Japanese art of sumi-e, or ink painting, often used paper to create delicate, expressive images of nature. The smooth surface of Japanese rice paper allowed for subtle gradations of ink, giving the paintings a sense of depth and movement. Artists could control the flow of ink with remarkable precision, resulting in artworks that were both minimalist and highly detailed. In this way, paper wasn't just a tool for writing. It was transformed into a means of capturing the beauty of the world around them. But the influence of paper on the arts wasn't confined to East Asia. As paper spread westward, it became the medium of choice for European artists as well. In the Middle Ages, illuminated manuscripts were painstakingly created by monks and artists who used parchment or paper to adorn religious texts with intricate designs and illustrations. These manuscripts, often brightly colored and richly detailed, were seen as works of art in their own right. But as paper became more widely available, it allowed artists to move beyond the constraints of expensive parchment. They could now experiment with new techniques and ideas, leading to the flourishing of the Renaissance. During the Renaissance, artists such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael used paper to sketch their ideas before committing them to larger works of art. These sketches, which would later become some of the most famous pieces of art in history, were often drawn on thin, flexible paper that allowed for quick, fluid lines. The ability to quickly sketch ideas and experiment with compositions on paper revolutionized the way artists approached their work. It gave them a new sense of freedom, allowing them to refine their ideas before putting them to canvas or marble. Paper was no longer just a tool for written communication. It had become an essential part of the creative process. Fast forward to the modern era, and paper continues to be the backbone of artistic creation. From charcoal sketches to watercolors to intricate paper sculptures, the medium is as versatile as ever. Contemporary artists often use paper not just as a flat surface for drawing or painting, but as a three-dimensional material that can be manipulated, folded, and layered to create unique textures and shapes. Paper cutting, for example, has become a popular art form in many cultures, with artists using precision knives to carve out intricate designs in paper. The delicate nature of paper lends itself perfectly to this type of work, allowing artists to create intricate and detailed designs that would be difficult to achieve with other materials. Historians still argue whether the shift from parchment to paper in the Western world truly revolutionized artistic creation, or if it merely provided a more practical and affordable alternative. Some suggest that the flexibility and ease of paper allowed for greater experimentation and innovation in the arts, while others argue that it simply made art more accessible to a wider range of artists and audiences. Regardless of where you stand on the debate, one thing is clear. Paper has been and continues to be a fundamental part of the artistic process. From ancient calligraphy to modern mixed media works, paper has provided a canvas for human creativity that is unmatched in its versatility. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore how paper has evolved beyond the world of art and communication. It has become an essential part of our daily lives, influencing everything from technology to entertainment. Whether it's the pages of a book, the layout of a newspaper, or the sheets of a notebook, paper continues to shape the way we interact with the world. So let's take a look at how this simple material has evolved in the modern era, and how it continues to play a vital role in shaping our society. As we leave behind the galleries filled with intricate sketches and sweeping calligraphy, we find ourselves in a world where paper is no longer just a tool for art, literature, or communication. It has evolved into something far more integral to the fabric of our daily lives, something we hardly give a second thought to, despite its profound influence on the way we interact with the world. From the pages of books and newspapers to the receipts in our pockets, paper is everywhere, shaping our society in ways both big and small. It's a versatile, humble material that continues to play an indispensable role in our modern lives. But how did we get here? How did paper move beyond just being a medium for the written word to becoming such a pervasive part of human existence? In the 19th and 20th centuries, paper became a cornerstone of industrial and commercial progress. The Industrial Revolution brought with it the mass production of paper, making it available on a scale never seen before. With the rise of factories and mechanized mills, paper could be produced more quickly and at a lower cost than ever. No longer reserved for the wealthy or the elite, paper became a commodity that was available to everyone. One of the most notable changes in this period was the explosion of newspapers. For the first time in history, news could be disseminated to a vast, wide audience. No longer confined to the educated or the elite, information was being passed along to the general public. Newspapers became the primary way people learned about current events, politics, and social movements. The democratization of information was made possible by cheap paper and improved printing methods, creating a new wave of public engagement that has continued to shape our societies to this day. This rise in the availability of paper also played a significant role in the global spread of literacy. With books, newspapers, and educational materials now more accessible, literacy rates soared. More and more people learned how to read and write, opening up new doors to opportunity and personal growth. Paper became the medium for knowledge, education, and empowerment, and it laid the groundwork for a more informed, connected world. But let's pause for a moment and reflect on how something as ordinary as a sheet of paper can have such a far-reaching impact. Paper didn't just help to spread news. It helped to shape culture. The mass production of books, newspapers, and pamphlets allowed for the exchange of ideas on an unprecedented scale. Political movements, social revolutions, and even scientific breakthroughs were communicated to the world through the pages of paper. Think about how revolutions like the French and American revolutions were fueled, in part, by pamphlets and manifestos that were printed and distributed widely, allowing ideas to spread quickly and take root in the minds of the public. Paper also helped foster a new kind of entertainment. The novel, for example, became a cultural phenomenon in the 18th and 19th centuries. Authors like Charles Dickens and Jane Austen became household names, and their works were consumed by millions. Thanks to the mass production of paper, the printing press and paper made it possible for novels to reach the masses, sparking an interest in reading that continues to this day. Imagine a world without the books that have shaped our imaginations, our societies, and our history. It's almost unthinkable, right? Historians still debate the cultural impact of paper in the modern era. Some argue that the explosion of printed material has contributed to the spread of mass consumerism, with advertisements, labels, and product packaging becoming an essential part of everyday life. Others contend that paper's influence on culture has been largely positive, democratizing knowledge and making education more accessible to people around the world. Whatever your perspective, it's clear that paper has been a powerful force in shaping modern civilization. The 20th century brought new challenges and opportunities for paper. While it continued to thrive in books, newspapers, and office supplies, the rise of digital technology began to cast a shadow over its dominance. The advent of computers, the internet, and digital media seemed poised to usher in the paperless society that many had predicted for decades, and indeed, in some areas. Paper's role has been reduced. Many forms of communication, work, and entertainment are now carried out on digital devices. But here's the thing. Despite the rise of digital technology, paper has proven to be more resilient than anyone expected. It's still here, still playing a vital role in our lives. Think about all the ways you still interact with paper. The books you read, the notes you take, the documents you sign, the money you handle. Despite the increasing presence of screens, paper remains essential in countless aspects of modern life. It's tactile, it's personal, and it continues to provide a sense of connection that digital media often lacks. There's something irreplaceable about the feeling of turning a page in a book or receiving a handwritten letter. Paper carries with it a sense of permanence and physicality that digital formats simply can't replicate. Historians continue to debate the future of paper. Will it continue to coexist with digital media, or will it eventually fade into obsolescence? As so many predicted in the past, some believe that paper will always have a place in our lives, particularly in areas like education, publishing, and personal expression. Others argue that digital formats will eventually take over completely. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Paper may not be the dominant force it once was, but it still has a vital role to play in the world. adapting to new technologies and finding new niches in an increasingly digital world. So, as we reflect on the journey paper has taken, from ancient China to the printing presses of Europe to the modern-day world, it's clear that paper is more than just a medium. It's a symbol of human progress, creativity, and connection. From the earliest written records on bamboo strips to the books we read today, paper has shaped our world in ways that are almost impossible to quantify. And who knows, maybe, in the years to come, paper will continue to evolve, finding new uses and new forms of expression in a rapidly changing world. Now that we've traced paper's journey across continents and centuries, from its humble origins in ancient China to its widespread use across the globe, let's take a closer look at its legacy in the context of our modern world. Paper's role today is far more than simply a tool for communication or artistic expression. It continues to be a symbol of continuity, even in the age of rapidly advancing digital technology. It's easy to think of paper as something from the past, something that's gradually being replaced by sleek, convenient screens. But if you look around, you'll see that paper is still holding its ground, still deeply woven into the very fabric of modern life. To understand paper's modern legacy, let's start by considering its continued use in publishing and education. Think about the last time you picked up a book or opened a notebook. Even in the digital age, there's something uniquely satisfying about the experience of reading a physical book, feeling the weight of the pages in your hands, and turning them one by one. Despite the rise of e-readers and audiobooks, print books are far from obsolete. In fact, they've seen a resurgence in popularity in recent years, especially among those who appreciate the tactile experience that only paper can provide. For many people, the act of reading from paper is more immersive and rewarding than reading from a screen. The absence of distractions, the slower pace, and the ability to mark up the page with notes or highlights all contribute to a richer reading experience. Studies have shown that people tend to retain information better when reading from paper, as opposed to reading from a screen. Perhaps it's the absence of endless notifications or the ease with which we can physically interact with a page. Whatever the reason, paper remains a preferred medium for many readers, particularly for books that require focused attention, like novels, academic texts, or works of history. The same can be said for education. Despite the rapid digitalization of schools, with tablets and laptops replacing traditional textbooks in many classrooms, paper still plays a central role in education. Teachers continue to use paper for assignments, exams, and note-taking, and students still use paper notebooks to jot down ideas, organize thoughts, and complete projects. While digital tools offer advantages like instant access to information and collaboration features, paper provides an invaluable means of personal reflection and organization. The act of writing something down by hand, rather than typing it, has been shown to improve memory retention and understanding. In fact, many educators and students alike still prefer to use paper for brainstorming, drawing diagrams, and taking notes. And then there's the world of business and finance, where paper remains indispensable. Think about the stack of documents you might need to sign when finalizing a deal, or the receipt you receive after making a purchase. Paper still holds a place in contracts, agreements, and official documentation. Legal paperwork, certificates, and forms are still overwhelmingly produced on paper, even in an era of digital signatures and online transactions. In some industries, the trust that paper documents symbolize, their physicality and permanence, remains unmatched by digital alternatives. paper records can be safely stored and preserved for years, offering a sense of security that some digital formats simply can't provide. But beyond the practical uses, paper continues to carry cultural significance. For centuries, it's been the medium of choice for recording important historical events. Paper documents, from the Magna Carta to the Declaration of Independence, have played a defining role in shaping our world. Even in today's world of tweets and blogs, paper still carries a sense of authority and permanence. Whether it's a handwritten letter, a printed photograph, or a carefully crafted book, paper represents a physical connection to the past. It's a tangible record of human thought and creativity, something that digital formats can struggle to replicate. Let's not forget the artistic legacy of paper, either. The world of paper art is a vibrant and continually evolving field. Artists today use paper in creative ways, exploring its texture, form, and weight. From delicate paper sculptures to intricate paper cutting designs, artists continue to push the boundaries of what can be done with paper. The flexibility and variety of paper make it an ideal medium for expressing both conceptual and emotional ideas. Whether in the form of a detailed portrait, a sprawling landscape, or a piece of abstract art, it's a medium that offers endless possibilities, even as the world moves toward more digital and technologically advanced forms of artistic creation. Historians still argue whether the digital age will lead to paper's decline, or whether the two will continue to coexist in a symbiotic relationship. Some believe that the prevalence of smartphones and digital devices will eventually eliminate the need for paper entirely. Others argue that there will always be a place for paper, particularly in the realms of education, business, and culture. One thing is certain: paper's impact on human history is undeniable, and its place in our lives continues to be important. It's worth considering, too, that as digital formats become more ubiquitous, there may be a growing desire for the physicality and authenticity that paper provides. The rise of print-on-demand services, artisanal paper crafting, and the continued importance of printed books and newspapers suggest that paper may, in some ways, be experiencing a renaissance. In fact, some experts predict that paper will continue to evolve, finding new niches in a digital world, whether in the form of eco-friendly recycled paper, new ways to combine digital and physical media, or paper-based technologies like e-ink. So, as we reflect on paper's legacy, from its earliest beginnings in China to its central role in modern education, business, and art, it's clear that this simple material will always be more than just a tool for writing. It's a medium that carries with it the weight of human history, the creativity of countless artists, and the intellectual achievements of civilizations past. Even as we move further into a digital age, paper remains a symbol of the connection between the past and the present, a reminder of our ability to communicate, create, and preserve. And perhaps, in the end, it's that connection between the ancient and the modern, the physical and the digital, that will ensure paper's place in our world for generations to come. As we move deeper into the present day, it's important to consider how paper continues to shape our world, not just in the realms of art, education, and business, but also in how we experience the environment and engage with sustainability. Paper's journey has always been one of adaptation, whether evolving from bamboo strips to the delicate sheets created in ancient China, or from the hand-pressed leaves of the Renaissance to the mass-produced pulp of today. But as we face increasing environmental challenges, it's clear that paper's role is evolving again. This time in response to the global push for sustainability and eco-consciousness. How does this ancient material meet the demands of a modern world focused on reducing waste, conserving resources, and protecting the environment? One of the most significant shifts in the paper industry over the past few decades has been the move toward environmentally friendly paper production. The rise of recycled paper has been a game changer, allowing paper to be reused and repurposed instead of being thrown away. Many companies have committed to using recycled fibers in their products, reducing the need for new raw materials and minimizing the environmental impact of paper production. This shift has been particularly important given the environmental challenges posed by traditional paper-making processes, which can be resource-intensive and lead to deforestation if not managed responsibly. The idea of recycling paper is not new. Ancient civilizations, including the Chinese, understood the value of reusing materials. In fact, paper was sometimes made from scrap fibers or leftovers, much like the recycled paper of today. However, the widespread commercial use of recycled paper is a modern development. Today, paper mills can process recycled materials at an industrial scale, reducing waste and the need for virgin wood pulp. This is crucial in combating deforestation and preserving the world's forests, which are vital for regulating climate change, maintaining biodiversity, and supporting communities around the world. But the shift toward recycling isn't the only way paper is becoming more sustainable. Many paper manufacturers are turning to alternative, eco-friendly raw materials that have a lower environmental impact than traditional wood pulp. Hemp, bamboo, and cotton, for example, are increasingly being used as alternatives to wood, as they grow quickly and require fewer resources to harvest. This switch not only helps to reduce the strain on forests, but also supports sustainable agricultural practices. Another exciting development in the world of paper is the push for biodegradable and compostable paper products. In an age where plastic waste is becoming one of the world's most pressing environmental issues, paper is seen as a viable alternative. Packaging, food containers, and even straws made from biodegradable paper are gaining popularity, offering a more sustainable solution to the global plastic crisis. Unlike plastic, paper breaks down naturally, returning to the earth without leaving behind harmful chemicals or pollutants. This makes it a key player in efforts to reduce waste and move towards a circular economy. Of course, paper production is not without its environmental challenges. The pulp and paper industry remains one of the largest consumers of water, energy, and chemicals in the world. The process of turning raw materials into paper is energy-intensive and can lead to pollution if not properly managed. However, advances in sustainable practices, such as the use of renewable energy, closed-loop water systems, and non-toxic chemicals, are helping to mitigate these impacts. In fact, many paper mills are becoming more transparent in their environmental practices, offering certifications like FSC, Forest Stewardship Council certification, which ensures that paper comes from responsibly managed forests. The growing demand for eco-friendly products has also led to an increase in the production of tree-free paper. Made from materials like sugarcane bagasse, the fibrous residue left after sugarcane is crushed, cotton, and even agricultural waste. Tree-free paper offers an alternative to traditional paper that doesn't rely on forests. These innovations are pushing the paper industry toward a more sustainable future, where paper can continue to fulfill its role in society without depleting natural resources or contributing to environmental degradation. Historians and environmentalists still debate the overall impact of paper on the environment. Some argue that the sheer volume of paper consumption continues to place a heavy burden on ecosystems and resources, while others point out that paper when managed responsibly, is a renewable and biodegradable resource that can be part of the solution to the planet's waste crisis. The key, as always, is balance. As we continue to innovate and seek solutions to our environmental challenges, paper will likely continue to evolve, finding new ways to meet our needs while minimizing its ecological footprint. Despite these challenges, the increasing focus on sustainability and eco-consciousness is ensuring that paper's place in the modern world is more secure than ever. Whether it's being used in the form of recycled notebooks in schools, sustainable packaging in the marketplace, or biodegradable paper straws at a local cafe, paper is adapting to the times, proving that even something as ancient as this material can be reimagined for a better future. So, as we reflect on paper's journey through history, from its modest beginnings in ancient China to its central role in shaping modern society, we can also look ahead to a future where paper continues to play a significant role in our world, not just as a tool for communication, art, and education, but as a sustainable, environmentally conscious material that supports our collective future. Paper may have started as an invention designed for writing, but over time, it has become much more, an enduring symbol of human ingenuity, creativity, and adaptability in the face of new challenges. As we move forward in this age of environmental awareness and digital transformation, paper's legacy is far from over. In fact, it is entering a new chapter, one where it can be both a part of the solution to our environmental crisis and a continued driver of cultural, artistic, and intellectual progress. Having explored the ways paper continues to evolve and meet modern demands for sustainability, it's now time to reflect on one of the more philosophical aspects of its existence: the paradox of its lasting presence in a digital age. With the digital revolution, which began in the late 20th century and has only accelerated in the 21st century, it seemed like paper would inevitably fade into the background. The rise of computers, smartphones, and digital tablets promised a paperless world, a future where everything could be stored, processed, and accessed digitally. Yet, here we are, decades later, still surrounded by paper in ways we might not have expected. How is it that, despite the convenience and allure of the digital world, paper continues to thrive? One of the most interesting aspects of this ongoing relationship between paper and digital technology is how paper complements, rather than competes with, the digital experience. While it's true that paper use has decreased in some areas, particularly in the office environment, where digital communication and storage have replaced physical paperwork, paper has found new roles in spaces where digital technologies can't fully replace it. For example, consider how paper is still integral to creative practices, despite the rise of digital media. The tactile nature of paper gives artists and designers a medium that digital screens cannot replicate. Graphic designers, illustrators, and even digital artists continue to rely on paper for sketching, drafting, and refining their ideas. There's something about the texture, the way ink or pencil moves across it, that a tablet or screen just can't duplicate. Even in the realm of digital art, many creators still start with a paper sketch or concept before transitioning to their screens. Think about the writer who still prefers to type out their first drafts on a typewriter or pen their thoughts on paper before transferring them to a computer. Despite the convenience of word processors and writing apps, many people find that writing by hand helps them focus and unlock creativity. There's something uniquely human about the act of putting pen to paper, a connection that, for many, still holds more emotional weight than typing on a keyboard. Researchers have shown that handwriting engages different cognitive processes compared to typing, which may explain why some people find it easier to reflect, brainstorm, or create when using paper. Similarly, in education, we see that while digital tablets and e-books have entered classrooms worldwide, paper is still present in countless ways. Students use notebooks, textbooks, and handouts to supplement their digital learning tools. The process of physically writing notes, as opposed to typing, has been shown to improve memory retention. Paper remains essential for students who are studying complex concepts, practicing mathematics, or even reading literature. There's a tactile interaction with paper that deepens engagement, a physicality that cannot be replicated by digital devices. And for students studying for exams, the act of writing out study notes on paper seems to engage different memory pathways, often leading to better retention. But beyond the personal and educational, the very structure of our society remains deeply entwined with paper. It's in our legal contracts, government documents, financial records, and even in our personal communications like letters, invitations, or greeting cards. Although emails and text messages dominate our day-to-day communication, the tradition of handwritten letters has not disappeared entirely. In fact, for many people, the act of sending a handwritten note or card carries an emotional depth that digital communication simply can't match. There's a permanence to paper, a weight to it that makes it feel more significant than a quick text message or an email. A letter you keep in a drawer, carefully folded, or a birthday card you hold on to, brings with it memories and emotions that transcend the fleeting nature of a digital notification. Historians still debate the future of paper in a world increasingly dominated by digital technology. Some argue that the convenience and efficiency of digital media will inevitably lead to the end of paper's dominance, while others believe that paper will continue to exist alongside digital technology, providing a tangible link to the past and a unique tool for creativity and communication. The truth is likely somewhere in between. Paper is evolving, adapting to the needs of our modern world, while still maintaining a distinct role that screens and digital devices cannot fully replace. Its enduring presence speaks to its versatility and its deep connection to human experience. It serves as a medium not only for information, but also for emotion, memory, and creativity. It's also worth noting that while the digital world promises convenience, paper has an authenticity and physicality that screens lack. You can't tear a page out of an email or keep a virtual postcard in your hands. There's an intimacy with paper that technology has yet to replicate fully. When you hold a piece of paper, whether it's a handwritten letter or a printed photograph, you are holding something that has existed in the physical world, created by another person, and that presence can't be replicated in the digital world. In a time when people are increasingly aware of the dangers of screen addiction and the mental strain of constant digital interaction, the simple act of holding paper can offer a welcome break, a chance to reconnect with something more grounded and real. In this digital age, where the lines between virtual and physical are blurring, paper remains a constant. It bridges the gap between the past and the future, between technology and tradition. It connects us to our history, even as it adapts to the demands of the modern world. The presence of paper in our lives is not a sign of resistance to the digital revolution, but rather a symbol of balance. While digital tools offer us efficiency, connectivity, and speed, paper provides a human touch, a reminder that sometimes the best way to remember, reflect, and create is with something as simple as a pen pen and a sheet of paper. So, as we continue to navigate this rapidly evolving digital landscape, let's take a moment to appreciate paper for what it is. A humble yet enduring material that has carried us through centuries of change. And perhaps, in the end, it will continue to evolve alongside us, offering us a grounding presence in a world that often feels like it's moving too fast. Paper isn't just a relic of the past. It's a timeless companion, ready to be written on, drawn on, and remembered for years to come. Now that we've explored the enduring presence of paper in both creative and practical aspects of our lives, it's time to zoom out and examine how paper has shaped the world in a more global context. When you think of paper's legacy, it's not just about how it transformed the way we communicate or express ourselves artistically. It's also about how it influenced the world of politics, law, and global relations. In some of the most pivotal moments in history, paper has played a role in defining nations, shaping political ideologies, and even altering the course of history itself. Imagine the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215, or the United States Declaration of Independence in 1776. These documents, etched into history, were crafted on paper, and they set in motion the birth of democracy and the struggle for human rights. Paper, in this sense, is more than just a material. It's a symbol of freedom, change, and revolution. Think about the role paper has played in political movements, from revolutionary pamphlets that fueled social change, to constitutions that founded new governments, to treaties that ended wars and established alliances. Each of these monumental moments in history was made possible because paper existed as a medium to record, share, and preserve ideas. The written word, made permanent on paper, has the power to ignite revolutions, dismantle old systems, and shape the very framework of society. Take, for example, the influence of the printed word during the European Renaissance. The invention of the printing press, combined with the widespread availability of paper, gave birth to a new era of intellectual exchange. Scholars no longer had to hand copy manuscripts. Instead, books could be mass-produced and distributed, creating an environment ripe for the spread of new ideas. From the works of Galileo to Martin Luther's 95 Theses, paper allowed these groundbreaking ideas to circulate widely, challenging the long-held beliefs of the time and ultimately transforming Europe's political, religious, and intellectual landscapes. This was a world where paper empowered thinkers to question the status quo, to critique established systems, and to propose new ways of understanding the world. Historically, paper has also been central to the establishment of governments and legal systems. The creation of written laws, codes, and constitutions has been fundamental in the development of modern political structures. Nations and empires have used paper to define the rights of individuals, establish justice systems, and codify laws. Paper provided the means to create consistency and fairness in legal processes, ensuring that rules were recorded, shared, and followed. Before paper, laws were often passed down orally or recorded in less durable forms, which made them prone to misinterpretation or loss. With the advent of paper, the permanence and accessibility of laws allowed societies to establish systems that could withstand the test of time. Think about how treaties, which have shaped global relations for centuries, have often been signed on paper, whether it's the Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I, or the peace agreements that ended conflicts like the Korean War or the Vietnam War. The written word on paper has marked the end of hostilities and the beginning of peace. Paper provided the medium for diplomats to come together, negotiate terms, and sign agreements that would change the course of history. The permanence of paper ensured that these decisions would be recorded and respected by future generations, preserving the fragile agreements that brought peace to warring nations. The importance of paper in global diplomacy is still felt today. Think of the documents used in modern international negotiations, peace treaties, trade agreements, and global accords like the Paris Agreement on climate change. While many of these agreements are now stored digitally, the act of putting pen to paper remains a powerful symbol of commitment and resolution. In this sense, paper continues to play a key role in shaping the way nations interact and govern themselves, carrying with it the weight of centuries of tradition and history. And beyond politics, there's an important role that paper has played in human history. By preserving the memory of civilizations past, ancient scrolls, manuscripts, and texts, many of which were recorded on paper or paper-like materials, have given us a window into the cultures, beliefs, and knowledge of ancient civilizations. Without paper, much of our understanding of history would be lost. Paper has served as a permanent record of human thought and experience, keeping alive the wisdom of philosophers, mathematicians, artists, and leaders. Whether it's the philosophical writings of Socrates, the scientific breakthroughs of Newton, or the novels of Shakespeare, paper has allowed us to preserve and transmit knowledge across generations, ensuring that future civilizations could learn from and build upon the achievements of their ancestors. Historians still debate the significance of paper in shaping the intellectual landscape of human history. Some argue that the spread of paper and the printing press has been the single most important development in human communication, fueling the rise of literacy, science, and democracy. Others point out that the power of paper was not in its ability to record knowledge, but in its ability to empower people. Paper gave people the power to communicate across distances, to organize movements, and to make their voices heard. Whether used to draft a law, sign a peace treaty, or pen a poem, paper has given humanity the means to share ideas, to reflect on the past, and to dream of the future. And as we look ahead, it's clear that paper's legacy is far from over. It may no longer be the primary medium for digital communication, but its cultural significance continues to resonate across the world. Paper is still present in our lives, in the books we read, the letters we write, the legal documents we sign, and the art we create. It has played a key role in shaping human history. And as we continue to navigate the complexities of the digital age, it remains an enduring symbol of human creativity, resilience, and progress. In the next section, we'll explore how paper's influence continues to evolve and adapt in the world of technology. As digital tools continue to advance, how will paper fit into this increasingly tech-driven world? Will it become even more of a niche product? Or will it find new ways to complement and coexist with technology? As we find ourselves entrenched in the digital age, with new technologies emerging daily, it's worth reflecting on how paper continues to coexist with, and sometimes even complement, these modern advancements. We've already discussed how paper has proven resilient, adapting to changes in the way we communicate, learn, and interact with the world. But as the digital landscape expands, one might wonder how paper can remain relevant in a world dominated by screens, algorithms, and virtual environments. Surprisingly, the answer is that paper is not fading away. It's finding new ways to work alongside these technologies, contributing to a hybrid world where both digital and physical mediums play vital roles. One of the most intriguing developments in this modern era is how paper and digital technology are converging. In a world of smartphones and laptops, it's easy to assume that paper is on its way out. However, paper continues to be a key element in many cutting-edge fields. For instance, in the world of education, technology and paper are often used together to create a more holistic learning experience. Digital devices like tablets and computers provide easy access to information, research materials, and interactive content. But paper remains essential for tasks like note-taking and physical organization. Many students and professionals still rely on paper notebooks to keep track of ideas, make to-do lists, or jot down quick notes. Writing by hand, studies have shown, improves focus and memory retention far more effectively than typing. The blend of digital and paper-based practices is especially apparent in the world of design and creativity. Artists and designers continue to use paper as a starting point for their digital work, sketching ideas by hand before digitizing them. This traditional approach offers the freedom and fluidity that digital tools alone cannot replicate. Designers create intricate paper models, illustrations, or prototypes that are then scanned, adjusted, and transformed in software. The tactile experience of working with paper gives designers a level of flexibility and creativity that digital tools simply cannot provide on their own. In this way, paper is not competing with digital technology. It's enhancing it, providing a tangible connection to creativity and ideas that computers alone cannot access. Paper's integration with technology has also expanded into new, high-tech realms, such as augmented reality, AR, and digital printing. For example, some companies are developing paper products with embedded AR technology, allowing paper to serve as a gateway to virtual environments. With the use of smartphones or AR glasses, users can scan paper-based materials such as brochures or textbooks to access interactive content, videos, and even 3D models. This hybridization of physical and digital experiences opens up new possibilities for communication, learning, and entertainment. Paper, which was once viewed as a static medium, has now become dynamic and capable of offering immersive digital experiences. In the world of business, paper continues to play an essential role in the legal, financial, and governmental sectors, despite the digitalization of many records. Paper documents are still required for official purposes in many jurisdictions. Important legal contracts, government forms, and business records are often kept in physical form for security reasons, ensuring authenticity and preventing fraud. While digital signatures and cloud-based storage systems have revolutionized document management, the permanence and tangibility of paper still hold a unique place in these sectors. It's a material that conveys authority, trust, and stability, providing something that digital records sometimes lack: a sense of permanence and verifiability. The rise of digital paper technologies is also noteworthy. One exciting area of innovation is the development of electronic paper, or e-paper. This technology, which powers devices like e-readers, allows digital text and images to be displayed on a surface that mimics the look and feel of actual paper. E-paper devices are lightweight, energy efficient, and easy to read, making them a perfect solution for digital readers who still crave the experience of reading from paper. These devices can be used for everything from books and newspapers to digital signage and smart packaging. In this context, e-paper merges the best of both worlds: digital convenience and the tactile experience of reading from paper. But perhaps most importantly, in the sustainability and environmental sectors, paper continues to evolve, proving that it is still relevant in a tech-driven world. Eco-friendly paper production methods have become a central focus of the paper industry, especially as society grows more conscious of its ecological impact. Many companies are now using sustainable, tree-free materials, such as agricultural waste, bamboo, and hemp, to produce paper. These innovations allow paper to remain a viable and sustainable option, even as digital technologies demand more of our attention. Moreover, digital advancements in the production of paper, such as the development of more efficient and environmentally friendly processes, show that paper can adapt to modern environmental needs. As the digital age progresses, some experts predict that paper might find its niche as a low-tech complement to high-tech systems, rather than a replacement for them. Paper products may be used in conjunction with digital tools to create more holistic, integrated systems. For instance, digital documents can be printed on demand when a physical copy is necessary for official purposes or for tactile experiences such as presentations or prototypes. Even in an increasingly digital world, paper's ability to serve as a physical object of exchange, a canvas for art, or a means of communication ensures its relevance in modern society. So, while the digital revolution continues to reshape the way we live, work, and communicate, paper finds itself uniquely poised to coexist with technology in ways we may not have predicted. Instead of fading away, paper continues to evolve, proving that it has the ability to adapt to new demands and challenges. It provides something that digital technology cannot: tangibility, texture, and authenticity. And in this sense, it will always have a place in our world. The hybridization of paper and digital technologies may well mark the next chapter in paper's long, storied history. And as we continue to innovate, we'll undoubtedly find even more ways to integrate paper into the tech-driven world. In the final section of our journey, we'll look at how paper's enduring presence has shaped not just the world of knowledge and communication, but the very fabric of human experience. We'll reflect on its role as a bridge between the past and the future, and the ways it continues to remind us of the power of the written word. Paper has stood the test of time, and as we move forward, it remains a vital part of our world. As we reach the final stretch of our journey, it's time to reflect on paper's remarkable legacy. A legacy that stretches across millennia, shaping the way we live, think, and communicate. Throughout history, paper has been far more than just a material for writing. It has been the foundation of entire civilizations, the driving force behind intellectual revolutions, and a tangible representation of human progress. From ancient China to the digital age, paper has not only carried the weight of history, but has also evolved with us, adapting to our ever-changing needs. Paper's journey is a testament to the resilience of simple ideas. It started as a humble invention, one born out of necessity, as early civilizations sought ways to record knowledge and communicate. Yet, over time, it became the cornerstone of modern civilization. It carried the wisdom of philosophers, the plans of leaders, the dreams of poets, and the teachings of scientists. Paper wasn't just about words on a page. It was about the way those words could inspire action, provoke thought, and bring people together. In many ways, paper's role has always been linked to the evolution of human thought. When paper allowed ideas to be captured in a tangible form, it gave them permanence. Knowledge that would have been lost or forgotten was now available for future generations. Through printed books, scientific papers, legal documents, and historical records, Paper has provided humanity with a lasting record of our achievements and our struggles. Think about the cultural movements, the revolutions, and the social changes that were fueled by paper. The pamphlets that spread revolutionary ideas, the manifestos that sparked reform, the books that changed the course of history. As we look back at the history of paper, it's fascinating to consider how its very materiality has shaped human consciousness. The act of writing something down, whether it's a legal document, a love letter, or a scientific theory, has always been more than just a task. It's a way of committing something to the physical world, of making it real. The tactile experience of putting ink to paper has always carried with it a sense of permanence and importance. Even in a world increasingly dominated by digital technology, the written word on paper still holds a special place. It's the paper that we hold in our hands, the books we can mark up, the letters we can keep and read over and over again. It's something tangible, something that we can touch, something that feels like it has a presence in the world. Historians continue to marvel at how paper has, in many ways, shaped the development of civilization. Paper wasn't just an invention. It was a tool that allowed us to shape our cultures, our laws, and our economies. It democratized knowledge, giving more people access to information than ever before. It allowed ideas to spread across borders, facilitating global communication in ways that were once unimaginable. And in that sense, paper played an essential role in the creation of our modern world. Looking forward, paper's place in society continues to be relevant, even in a world where screens are omnipresent. Paper still has an enduring charm and utility. It's a reminder of where we've come from, a bridge between our past and our future. It remains a symbol of communication, connection, and creativity. Despite the rise of digital technologies, paper is not going away. It is evolving, finding new ways to coexist with and complement the digital tools that now dominate our lives. Whether in the form of an e-paper screen, an eco-friendly notebook, or an intricate paper sculpture, it's clear that paper will continue to play a significant role in the world. In a way, the story of paper is a story of human progress. It reflects our need to record, preserve, and share our ideas with others. From the first crude strips of bamboo to the sophisticated paper products we use today, paper has been a companion to the intellectual, artistic, and cultural growth of humanity. It has carried the weight of human history and thought, preserving our legacy for future generations. And as we wrap up this journey, let's not forget the most important lesson that paper has to offer. It is not just the medium that matters, but the content that paper carries. The ideas, the stories, the knowledge. It's all contained in the pages, preserved for us to read, to learn from, and to pass on to others. Paper, in all its forms, continues to be a vessel for human expression, an enduring record of our lives, our dreams, and our aspirations. Whether it's a book, a letter, a painting, or a piece of legal documentation, paper is the one constant that ties us to our past and helps us build toward the future. So, as we move forward into an ever more digital world, let's remember the simple yet profound power of paper. It has witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the creation of new worlds, and the recording of our deepest thoughts. And while it may change in form, paper will always be a part of us, a reminder of where we've been and where we still have yet to go. The story of paper in many ways, is the story of humanity itself. Now, as the day draws to a close, we can rest easy knowing that the legacy of paper lives on, just as we, too, continue to write our own stories, one page at a time. It appears that we've reached the end of our journey through the history of paper. The script is now complete, with the 15 sections provided to encapsulate the rich story of how paper has influenced humanity from ancient China to the present day. As we wind down this narrative survey, it's a perfect moment to reflect on how the story of paper, from its humble beginnings to its profound impact on history, serves as a reminder of human ingenuity, adaptability, and the enduring legacy of even the simplest inventions. Paper has held our thoughts, our stories, our laws, our art, and so much more, acting as both a vessel and a bridge between the past and the future. And just as paper has evolved, so too has humanity's relationship with knowledge, creativity, and communication. Thank you for coming along on this journey, and I hope you have a restful and peaceful night, filled with dreams of the remarkable story of paper and its quiet, transformative influence on our world.